Hey y'all, it's Laura and I'm back with another Distress Oxide layout for our video hop. Be sure to check the description box below for the other ladies in this hop. We all have inspiration for you to use your Distress Oxide inks. Now in this case, you could also use regular Distress Oxides for what I'm using it for today. But first, let's talk about these super cute photos. These photos are of my daughter Chloe in her witch's costume from this year. And I absolutely printed these out immediately so that I could use them for this video because yesterday was Halloween. So I thought if I went ahead and printed these pictures out, had them ready to go, I could go ahead and scrap them in a timely fashion around Halloween and, just be kind of on par with what's going on in the world. So I have backed them with the Forever Fall collection. That is the main collection I'm using. It's from Simple Stories, and I just picked up a little mini kit. I do this a lot, you guys. I pick up 4 or 5 papers, the stickers, and the ephemera pack is all I have from this collection. And that's all I need because I'm only going to do probably a handful of layouts and then I'll be sick of it. So I don't need the whole collection for this. I just need a little bit. Now these little leaves are from a Paige Evans cut file, and they were actually from a wreath, a leaf wreath. Say that 3 times fast. And I cut them apart and I'm going to back them with some of the Forever Fall papers. I decided just to use 3 on each side because I want to use some of the ephemera and maybe some stickers. At this point I wasn't sure all of what, but I wanted to use a lot of those items and just have these larger leaves as kind of the backdrop, the layer that's at the very back, and then I'll have the smaller ephemera pieces in front. So these are just simply going to be for layering. They're just the bottom layer of clusters that are going to be on either side of the photo. And I am going to back these using the cut apart sheet because there were a couple of really cute papers. One of them, this great cut apart, is a 4x4, which I'm not likely to use because I don't really use 4x4 page protectors. So it was okay to go ahead and use this up. And I'm going to go ahead and glue these down and then cut them out. Don't worry, I'm not going to make you watch that entire process, but I do want to leave in just enough so if someone comes to this video and hasn't seen this process before, they can get the general idea. So I've glued these down and now I'm going to cut them all out and back the larger pieces on a different piece of paper. And this is going to allow me to have a lot of the colors from the collection added into my page without a lot of effort. You know, these little cut files are great because you can back them with the papers and add in the flavor of that kit. And these were not cut on anything special. This is really old, kind of autumny toned paper. And I wasn't sure if I'd use the white side or the autumny toned brown side. I may use the white side next time for the rest of those. But I am going to bring in some Distress Oxides. I'm going to use my Wild Honey. I'm going to use peacock feathers and I'm going to use abandoned coral. And I'm going to mix together abandoned coral with wild honey to get a nice orange because wild honey, even though it looks orange, is actually very, very yellow. It's kind of like a golden yellow, which I love a good golden yellow. But in this case, I want orange. It's Halloween. Gotta have orange. So I wanted lots of painty strokes and both sets of colors. And I will say, though, that the peacock feathers turned out to be a little more teal than I bargained for. And I was hoping it was going to be a little lighter than it ended up being. But that's okay. We're going to roll with it. Sometimes that happens and you can't stress about it. So we're just going to go ahead and do lots of painty strokes in both colors. You're not really going to see where the 2 colors meet, so I'm not too worried about them mixing and making a weird green muddy color, which is likely what's going to happen because this is very blue and that orange is very orange, and those 2 colors do not mix well together. We are going to add lots and lots of splattering all around the page. You'll notice I am also splattering on top of the painted area as well. That is purposeful. I am now going to take my paper towel roll and roll it over top, and as you'll see, we'll get a really cool distressed look from that splattering. And I will say, should have started with this the first way that I began because it ends up turning back around. So I start layering, I add in my large leaves, and then I'm going to start adding in lots of ephemera pieces. Now I'm not going to leave in the part where I added all of the ephemera pieces because I take them off and flip the background around and start all over. So there's no reason to make you watch that whole process twice. I did bring in these really cool thickers that I really like. I'll link them down in the description box below when I figure out their name. And wanted to call this Bewitching. And so at first, that's all I had in mind was just Bewitching. And then I realized there's a great deal of space down there on that teal, and it looks kind of odd that it's empty. So I do come in and add a little bit more to this Bewitching title. And my daughter is a witch in these photos, and so I thought that was just a little bit clever. So I brought in these pretty gold thickers that are very glittery and added Bewitching, my dear. And I had at this point decided I was going to make the whole title You're Bewitching, my dear. And before I did that, it occurred to me that I wasn't loving the teal on the bottom. So guess what? Took everything back off, flipped my layout around, and then decided I really need to go ahead and mount this onto that black cardstock that I started with so that I can really get a feel for what this layout will look like finished. So now that I have it the right orientation that I wanted, I'm going to go ahead and add in the rest of those stickers that say Your, and then we can start actually embellishing this time. So one of the things I want to mention about Distress Oxides, you can use them on black cardstock. They're actually visible, whereas Distress inks are not. And I did consider doing this layout on black cardstock. However, the colors are much more muted when they dry, and I really wanted them to stand out. Because my daughter's picture is pretty black and neutral colored, I needed a background that was going to stand out and was going to, in contrast, make her photos pop. So that is why I didn't go with a black background, but you could. I decided to go with this Vicki Boutin Foundations paper, which I find works beautifully for mixed media, and I'm very happy with. So now I've got my tonic glue pen out at the ready, and I'm going to very quickly glue all of the pieces back down. I did speed this up quite a lot because, as you can imagine, this took a long time. I added in all of my leaves first, and then I came in with these cotton ball looking pieces that I knew I wanted to stick out behind some of the other ephemera. And I'm just going to add it in piece by piece. Let me just mention to you that I find it much easier to set things up, get a general idea where I want them to go, and then brush it to the side and put it in layer by layer. So here I've gone with the very base layer, those large leaves and those cotton fronds just coming out the top. Got a little feather pop in there. Got these larger circle pieces. Get your larger pieces in first as well, because then you can easily squeeze in those smaller pieces in the open areas and not end up with weird gaps. The other thing I was trying to do here was to move the colors around the page. So I'm moving this blue flower to the left side because I have a great deal of blue on the right side. And I'm putting this reddish maroon flower on the right side because I already have a lot of that color on the top left. So I am trying to find some balance between the two sides, even though, I mean, you can't have full balance. The ephemera pack only has one of each thing in these colors. So I do have to kind of maneuver them into places where they work. Now, while I'm adding in all of these pieces, I am thinking to myself that these gold thickers are really popping off of this page. There's no other gold. So in my head, I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to have to add in more gold on this page so that those thickers make sense. I also realized that the Your is not quite in the center, and I will have to move that over as well. But just adding in these little bits and pieces, we've got some mushrooms, we've got some acorns, we have florals. There are a lot of florals actually, which I love. That's very typical for Simple Stories though. We've got some little circles with wood grain and some hearts. And this collection is just beautiful. It's a lovely collection that doesn't just have your typical orange and black and purple and green. It's not a Halloween collection. It's definitely a fall collection. And I love the fact that they've brought in teal. So we've got maroon and teal and orange with little pops of black, little pops of kind of an off-white, and it all seems to work really, really well for fall layouts. I actually did not pick up another Halloween collection this time. I knew that I had some Halloween pictures coming up, but was kind of tired of the typical Halloween collections that I have been seeing around. I decided to bring in that gold with some gold glitter hearts that I keep punched in a small bowl in my desk, and these are great for adding just a little bit of bling, a little bit of excitement around the page, and those tiny details that I really, really like to add near the end of my layouts. So I'm using some very tiny gold ones that I use from a confetti die that I run through my Sidekick on the gold glitter paper, and I'm adding those on the outsides, just kind of as if it's kind of a splash off of those lovely leaves. And then I'm going to tuck some larger pieces in with the leaves and in with the florals to again tie in more of that gold. I want to make sure that those thickers that are in that bright sparkly gold don't stand out too much on this layout. Now overall this layout is pretty busy, and that's why I'm not going to add a lot of embellishment on top of my photos. You'll notice that I don't have a ton of things overlapping the photos because I do want them to remain the focus of the layout. Everything is tucked underneath. So once I get those all cleaned up, then I am just going to come in with some lovely Heidi Swapp Color Shine in gold and just splatter it everywhere. Anywhere that there is currently splatters in any of the colors, there will be Heidi Swapp Color Shine. Do make sure though that you have your Distress Oxide nice and dry before adding the Heidi Swapp Color Shine, because otherwise it will turn to mud, and no one wants mud on their layout. It's not a pretty look. I did pick up the sticker pack and it is beautiful, but all that I grabbed was one phrase sticker to put on top of the photo, and that's it. That's all of the embellishing that happens on top of the photo. So now, thinking about where I want to put my journaling, wasn't entirely sure if what I wanted to write, settled on just the month and year, so I can put this into my daughter's album and know where it belongs. That's it. This layout is complete. Make sure you check out the other ladies in the description box below, and I will link any of these items that I used on this layout as well. Thanks so much for joining me. Until next time, bye!